Okay, let's get started so we can respect everybody's time. Welcome everybody to this webinar by the Jewish Community Foundation of San Diego about Israel's Northern Front and the stress and the pressure and the needs and the opportunities that exist for us to support Israel's North. I'm Charlene Seidel. I'm President and Chief Philanthropy Officer at the Jewish Community Foundation. I'm so delighted to welcome everybody on the webinar and also our incredible guests who are going to really share with us a sense of what life is like on the Northern Front. I was mentioning before we got started that we are actually meeting at a very interesting point. As an aside, I always tell people when I'm taking them to Israel that you're so lucky you're going to be going at the most interesting time, ever to Israel. And I'm never lying. Like it's always, so I would say that it's probably been different interesting times, but you probably saw in the news that President Trump just announced a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. So we'll see what happens with that. And hopefully it'll create some kind of a reprieve, but albeit maybe a brief one. Um, but the North, ceasefire or otherwise, has some really profound needs and also profound opportunities. Personally, I love Israel's northern front, the border with Lebanon, and that area. I think it's the most beautiful place in the country and one of the most beautiful places on earth. And so really glad that we have our speakers joining us. So I'm gonna just give some brief bios and then I'm gonna have a conversation and we'll hear from each of our speakers. So first, I wanna just welcome and introduce Anat Danis. Anat is an incredible colleague. She serves as Director of Philanthropy and specializing in regional recovery at Jewish Funders Network Israel. As part of her role, Anat leads the Northern Foundations Forum, which is a forum of philanthropic foundations, both Israeli and diaspora-based, I think, Anat,
Yes.
focused on the north of Israel. And she has extensive experience working at nonprofits and has led different cross-sector partnerships, worked together with the government, civil society, and other partners. Um, we also are welcoming another Anat, the amazing Anats, I call them, Anat Schwartzweil, who is the Director of Partnerships and Strategic Growth at the Israel Association of Community Centers. Anat previously worked at the JDC Israel, leading the East Jerusalem Funders Forum, a very important, complex forum of foundations, and also worked to develop the prize, the Jerusalem Prize that honored the memory of the three boys who were murdered in about 10 years ago in just outside
2014. Yeah.
2014. We also have with us Lior Hirschman. Lior is the director of the Nahariya Community Center. Some of you may have been to Nahariya. It's the largest city on Israel's northern border that was not evacuated after October 7th. There's been frequent sirens and direct rocket impacts, and Lior will talk about that and how he leads the community center. And we also have Golan Rosenberg, the director of the Mate Asher Regional Council, which is a group of kibbutzim, moshavim, and also Arab villages along Israel's northern border. So let's get started. Please put questions in the chat if you have them, and I will try to integrate them into our conversation. I want to start with Anat Danis. You are sitting at a crucial nexus, Anat, between philanthropy, civil society, government, and other stakeholders. You're working to address needs, gaps, and opportunities in the north of Israel. So give us a bit of a big picture of the demographics, those impacted, how many people live in the affected region, how many left in October 2023 and returned last year, and even give us a sense up until the current war with Hezbollah, and then we'll speak about the current war. What were the key needs already and the themes in terms of rebuilding and redevelopment?
Thank you. Thank you for having us today. So I'll go back to October 2023. In October 2023, 65,000 people were evacuated by government order from the north. We're talking about people who live up to 3.5 kilometers from the border. These people lived for a year and a half, either in hotels or in apartment funded by the government. And it's important to remember that because it was a very, very long evacuation period before before they could go back. Now we also need to remember that when we talk about now about the north and the region, we talk about government efforts, which I'll touch later. We're talking about 0 to 9 kilometers from the border, which is a much larger area than the area that was evacuated. And many of these people, for example, if you live 3.6 kilometers from the border and you weren't evacuated by government order, you had two options: either to stay and live under fire for a long time, which is what many people did, or leave the area but pay it on your own, which is of course very difficult for most people to pay for their own place in the north and then to rent another place in the center. And also these people, for a year and a half had to go through living under fire. So a year later, there was a ceasefire, and in March 2025, the government said that it's okay and safe to go back to the north, and people started gradually going back to the north in 2025. As we assumed, some of the families with kids waited until the summer to go back because they didn't want their kids to stop school and start, a new one in the north. And around September 2025, according to the government data, about 87% of the residents of the north who were evacuated returned to the region. Now, this number is a little bit tricky because some people who live in the north say it's not the correct number, but this is the number that we have. And I'm saying it's a bit tricky because 87%, is very different. There are kibbutzim that over 100% or 100%, went back to, and there are cities like Kiryat Shmona that less than 70% went back to. So this is also something that's important to know. Now I'm going to touch a little bit. I'm also going to talk about the demographic when I'm going to talk about the government and the rehabilitation plan. But I also want to say that when we talk about government response to the events in the north, generally speaking, government response was too little, too late. Only a year after the war started, the government established the directorate, the agency for the rehabilitation of the north, that was responsible for all communities up to 9 kilometers from the north. And we're talking about 270,000 people, living in that area. And if you want to compare it to the south, for example, just to understand, the scope, in the south, up to 7 kilometers from the border, we're talking about 68,000. In the north, we're talking about over 250,000. And it's a much larger area, more spread out, different demographics, Jews, Arabs, Christians. It's a much larger, population. And also in terms of budgets, the government allocated 12 billion shekels for the rehabilitation of the north for a 5-year rehabilitation plan. And even until today, we talked about that it was established a year ago, at least. There's still 5 billion shekels that haven't been allocated yet. They've been approved, but they haven't been allocated. And when we spoke to the government, they said last year, by Shavuot, they're going to pass the government resolution, but that didn't happen yet. So this is something that's important to know. And I want to touch a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about needs, and I also want to talk about the response of the philanthropic community, because that's also could be also interesting. So I would say that right before the war started, the recent operation, we finally started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, despite all challenges, despite the government response and all the needs and everything that's happening, we finally started to see more civil engagement, civil organizations, civil society organizations. Philanthropic community was more engaged, because this is not something that happened right after October 7th. It took a while also for the philanthropic community to respond to the events in the north. And I'm talking about, I run the Northern Foundation Forum, and we did a survey about the philanthropic investments in the north, and 36 foundations and federation answered this survey. and said that they invested $215 million in 2025, and we're planning to do so also in 2026. And we know that doesn't reflect the whole community. But what I wanted to say is that we really started to see a progress in the rehabilitation, efforts, and now it feels like we're going back again. And when you're asking also about, when you're asking about needs, I would say there are needs in every possible area, health, mental health, everything, everything you touch. But I want to talk about two specific needs that are also relevant for, what we're going through now. The first one is education. We need to keep in mind that the kids of the North, I mean, all of our kids didn't study a lot. I'm sure Nat can also relate. They didn't study a lot in the last year and a half in Israel. But the kids of the North, it's a very, very different thing. And they need to narrow educational gaps. And now it's even getting worse, of course, because they're not studying again. So that's one thing. Another thing is going back to school. I'm talking about from the teacher's point of view, having classes with students who studied in different schools in Israel, different levels. A teacher needs to teach a class with kids who studied in different curriculums, different levels, different things that they learned. So that's another challenge. And the last challenge is that this is something that we hear from residents, that many of them, after living in the center for such a long time, and seeing different schools, different opportunities, different after-school programs, so many after-school programs that they don't have in the North, they're saying, we don't want to go back to what we had on October 6th. We want to go back to what we had in the center. We saw different things. So this is definitely a big challenge, education, and it's of course happening right now because they're still not learning. Even when our kids went back to school, they're still sitting in bomb shelters. And the second thing I want to touch is the economic development and employment. This is a major, major, major thing, and we saw it right after people started going back to the north, and we're seeing it now. There are companies that moved to the north before October 7th and left and not coming back. Small businesses in the north, there's a large percentage of self-employed. And many of these businesses, shut down and closed, and they're not opening. And you feel it when you go. I was in Kiryat Shmona. You feel it. You just see it. After 5 o'clock, you're looking for a restaurant, you're looking for a coffee place, and things are closed. And this is a major thing because when we talk about people going back, and especially young adults, so this is definitely something we need to keep in mind. And I'll just say now something positive because I don't want to just talk about negative. When I talked about it, we started seeing the light at the end of the tunnels. We also started seeing initiatives by organizations, by youth movements, by young people moving to the north. We call them the young pioneers of the north. The transition of Tel Chai, from a college to university was a major, major thing, for the region, for the economy, for attracting new families. So this is something we need to make sure that doesn't stop now, because in many, many ways we're regressing and we're going back in time with, the current situation.
So Annette, thank you for that. That was a really incredible overview. Thank you. Um, So you talked about the regression now and the regression of the last 7 weeks, and in terms of perceptions, even in the North. I know that one of the, real, and I will probably hear this from the others, real mantras has been like, we're not leaving the North again, and we're going to be here. We're not going to ever let ourselves be evacuated again. Um, Tell us specifically about the last 7 weeks. You said there's been a regression. What are you seeing in terms of those needs and gaps? You already started to talk about the
Yeah.
educational gaps, but what other trends have you seen just in these last 7 weeks? Even access to shelters, I know, is an issue, and other things that have come up, trauma,
Yeah.
mental health, etc.
Yes. Well, I'll let, of course, the people from the north speak about. I'm sure they can say in a better way, but I'll tell you from what we see and what we hear from the field. First, I'll say that not evacuating this is also the government. This is what the government says. The government does not want to evacuate the residents of the north. So this is also, it's not going to happen. This is something they feel strongly about, that it's not going to happen again. Now, of course, when you spoke about having, in terms of protections and safe room, we know there's like, I think the number in Kiryat Shmona, they're talking about 4,700, apartments that don't have, proper protection. And this
And
is
I
a
just want to
major,
point out, sorry,
yes,
Anat, for people that may not know, when you're in Jerusalem or in the center and you hear a siren, you have 90 seconds to get to a safe room or a shelter. In the north, you have maybe 5 to 7 seconds, if that. So it's not, there's no room
yes,
for mistake or for
yes.
hesitation.
So there's two things. First, there's the first alert that we're talking about. We have the warning before the actual alert. So, there could be I could be sitting here with you. I could have a
We in
warning,
the
and then
center,
I'll
you
wait for
mean?
the alert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it could take minutes. For them, they have 15 seconds to get to the bomb shelter. That's one thing. Another thing is also how many, we're talking about just having, not even how long it takes to get to the shelter, having safe rooms, having public shelters. First, there are many people who don't have shelters at home. I have a safe room at home. All I need to do if there's a siren, I need to go one floor up. Many people need to go to public shelters, and even there's not enough of these, in the north. So this is a major thing, and this is not something that you can't fix that during a war. And it's also something that's like long term. It's not something new. We knew about it for years, and this is definitely a government role to do it, not philanthropic community. But I would say from what we hear, the major, I would talk about first the immediate needs that we hear, also from the very, very beginning. Everything that has to do with respite activities for kids, keeping kids busy in bomb shelters, which I'm sure this is something that we know. The Chevra
Yeah,
Lematnasim, I
we'll be
forgot your name in
hearing more
English.
about that
Yeah,
later. Yeah.
that's a major thing they're doing. And we hear it across the board because kids who are staying in bomb shelters for such a long time, you need to keep them busy. And this is definitely something that we hear, and it's done by youth movements, and this is something that's it's very important. Another thing is to get families out of this, war zone. Even for a week, even for a few days. The government, allocated funding for that, but it's not enough. And this is something we hear, especially, for elderly and people with disabilities, but not just families, just to have a week where you can go somewhere and not worry about spending your whole day in the bomb shelter. Just going to a hotel for 5 days. That's another thing that we hear. People with disabilities and elderly, access to bomb shelters. Um, when we're talking about going to a bomb shelter, even if you have time, when you're old or you're with disabilities, it takes much longer. And one of the things that we hear is that it's one thing during the day for people with disabilities to get to the bomb shelter, but at night when they're sleeping already, there's no way they can wake up, get on a wheelchair, get to the bomb shelter, even if they have help, even if they live in some sort of a home. And some of the solutions are, for elderly and for people with disabilities, is to put them in safe places at night because that's the only way for them to be safe. So this is definitely something we hear, and even the basic things. We hear it all the time: equipment, food, public shelters that need a little bit of renovation. These are things that we hear all the time. And now I would say in the beginning it was only the immediate needs. Now we're also starting to hear, of course, about small businesses because we in the center we're back to our normal life, and they're still there, and they're starting to feel the effect of not working, not getting paid for such a long time. And even though government says you're going to get compensation, there's a way for us to support you. Government is very bureaucratic. It takes a long time for money to come in, and when you need money right away, it doesn't help you that you're going to get it after you submit all the forms. And we touched education, so I'm not gonna touch that. But narrowing gaps, especially at the end of the year and before the test of the end of the year, is also a major thing.
Thank you so much, Anat. That was such a helpful overview that I'm sure we'll be returning to in our minds as we hear, and maybe in our questions as we hear a little, we drill a little deeper down or we go a little further down and hear more about the everyday experience of residents, and particularly what you said in terms of living in bomb shelters, if you're gonna, if you have access and the services. And so we really thought that it would be really useful to highlight the role of the community centers in this crisis, in this war, and in the last, number of years of war and before that, because community centers have really been the hub of activities and engagement from, from womb to tomb, as from for very young children and for very old elders, where they are able to find not only belonging and friendship and physical activity, but safety and respite and any kind of mental health, resilience from the community centers. So let's start just a not vial. You're managing strategy for all the community centers in Israel. So I think we would love, before we hear specifically some stories of residents in the North from Golan and Lior, it would be interesting to hear how you're customizing programs for community centers in the North, how you serve such a diverse um, group of residents, and just give us a sense of the center's reach in the North and key themes of need. And then we'll hear directly from Golan and Lior, who are going to share some stories and specifics about life, everyday life in the North, and in the areas that they are.
Good. So can you hear me well? Because I'm in two
Yes, even though
computers
you're on
because one
mute, we
has
can
better
somehow hear
reception.
you. It's a miracle.
Good, because it is. I tried to bring better reception from a different computer, so
You
I hope this
succeeded.
works. Good. So thank you so much, Arlene, and good morning to you, and good evening to us. And thank you so much for being with us. Before I relate to all your questions, I do want to open. I want to open with a moment, okay, that could really explain what we're doing. So on October 8th, the day after the war began, one of our community center directors in the northern Israel opened the doors early in the morning. There were no scheduled activities, no classes, no programs, and still people came. Not because they had somewhere to go, but because they didn't know where else to go. And that moment says everything about what community centers are in Israel. Not just buildings, not just services, but a living space of belonging, especially when everything else feels uncertain. And so, like Charlene said, my name is Anat Schwarzweil, and I serve as a director of partnerships and strategic growth at the Israel Association of Community Centers.
And just so you
And
know, we can hear you, we can't see you. So there must have been a difficulty with your reception, but keep on going. I just want you to know that.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
I can see now my computer going crazy, so that's good that we have this backup. I hope you'll see me soon. So again, thank you for having us, and it really means a lot to speak with friends and partners from the San Diego Jewish community. Here, maybe now I'll come up. Okay, I'm continuing. You can imagine me in this meantime. Um, so so who we are. So across Israel, from Eilat to Metula, there is something almost every community shares. That is a common ground, a human infrastructure, a place where people grow up. Okay, I'm here, I'm back, I hope. Hello. Oh, I'm here. Good. So like I said, it's a place where people grow up, build a routine, find belonging, and stay connected. And where communities come together, especially if life becomes uncertain. This is the idea of community center in Israel. The Israel Association of Community Centers is a national network of community centers inspired by the JCC model in the United States. And for over 50 years, our focus has been simple, just to build strong, connected communities by responding to people's real needs right where they live. We work through a network of over 200 community centers, reaching millions each year. In close partnerships with local municipalities, we serve as the civics and social platform of community life beyond formal systems like schools or welfare services. On ordinary days, community centers are about connections and routines. And in times of crisis like we are now, they become anchors, place to support trust and continuity. That is who we are and why this work matters so much, especially now. And I want to take you to the north, one of the most diverse and complex regions in Israel. We work across Jewish, Arab, Druze, Bedouin, and most communities in cities, villages, and regional councils. We're talking about 45 local authorities at the north, 46 community centers, 49 directors and management teams, different communities, culture. You can just imagine how much it's different between each one of them. But when routine breaks, their needs become very similar. And then I want to take you to October 7th. For the North, like Anat also spoke about, the reality since then has been clear that even when it fades from the headlines, the war has not really stopped. And I just want to say that the recent headline that we just read at the news, there is also the day after the war, there will be so much work to
You
do
mean
at the
just for the
north.
people that just joined the announcement just before this of a ceasefire for 10 days for 10 by Trump, just to interject.
Right. So yes, and some communities have, like Anat mentioned, has been evacuated. Others live under constant threat. Like Anat said, schools open and close, and some families are separated, and routine never fully returned. This was not a short emergency. It's become a way of life. There are children that only knows how to live with sirens. This is what they know. And the reality and community center transformed overnight. They became emergency hubs, like Charlene mentioned, coordination centers, and space for mutual emotional support. Community center directors became civic leaders in an ongoing, unresolved crisis for weeks, but not only for weeks, but also for months, working around the clock, coordinating services, supporting teams, and responding to constantly changing needs. The people who opened those doors that I spoke about on October 8th and kept them open ever since our community center directors. And they did so much more than open doors. They made sure there was something behind them, support, coordination, and care. That's why I'm not here alone today. Joining us, as Charlene mentioned before, are two community center directors from the Northern District, Lior Hirschman from Nahariya and Golan Rosenberg from Mate Asher Regional Council, who live this reality every single day. Both are working around the clock, keeping services running, supporting staff and volunteers, and coordinating with the local authorities and constantly adapting. Their role goes far beyond managing programs. They are leading their communities through ongoing crisis, making sure people are supported, connected, and not alone. So I just want finish before we give the microphone to our wonderful community center directors. I just want to say, as a part of the global Jewish community, this work connects all of us across distance and time zones, not only in values but in responsibility. And what happens in communities in the northern of Israel is not separated from Jewish life elsewhere. In moments like these, community centers are part what holds Jewish communities together. here in Israel and with partners like you across the ocean who stand with us, support us, and help make resilience possible. So again, thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Anat.
walking with us on this path and being our true partners. And I'm going to hand it now to Golan and Leo. Or first, Charlene.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anat. And I also want to hand it to Golan and Lior, but we've heard a lot of statistics and demographics. And I have to say, like, I found myself even recently in Jerusalem going to a shelter and having time to get there, thinking like, what is life like for somebody in the north? And so I really want you two to each speak for 7 minutes or so, 7 or 8 minutes each, and just take it to a human level. Like, who are you working with? What is your day-to-day life like? Give us a couple stories of the real humans that are living this terrible reality, but that you're propelling sort of forward. So who wants to start?
Golan, let's
Lior.
go. I will
Okay.
start. Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Leo Hershman. I'm the CEO of the community centers in area for the last very, very interesting 5 years. A few words about myself. Married, 3 children. All of them are soldiers in the very, very special units in the army. So you can understand that since the 7th of October, nor me or my wife, we are not sleeping. I was 26 years in the army also. I'm Lieutenant Colonel at Reserve, and I fought many, many wars in Israel. When the 7th of October came, many people asked me what is going to be happen, what's going to happen, because many people felt that this is something like the Holocaust. And I told them that we will be okay, that we will win, that we are very, very strong, and whatever is going to happen, it will be 2, 3 years, very, very hard years, but we will win. And this is what is going on. We are winning, we will be okay. And this is something that everybody should understand. About Nahariya, a few words about Nahariya. Nahariya today is something like between 2 kilometers from the Lebanese border to 5, 6 kilometers. We are today 80,000 people. We were 5 years ago something like 45,000 people or something like that. Today we are 80,000 people. We are the capital of the Western Galilee. And one of the most important things for us that Nahariya will be a place when there is a majority of Jews. And we are very, very happy that our city is growing and will be a very, very important city in Israel. We must understand that if you see what is going on today between Hadera and Kedera, the center of Israel, we can see that the peripheria, that Nahariya, Mate Asher, Chatzor, Rosh Pina, whatever, we must be the same like Tel Aviv. A few words about the community centers. One of the most important things for us is the health of our community. You must understand that people are, for the last 5 years, you understand that you recognize the COVID-19, and after that there was a flood in Nahariya, and then 3 years of war. This war is very, very, very confusing because you have a month that everything is okay, and then a month you are going to the ceasefire, and then you are going back to fight. You can see that maybe tonight there will be a ceasefire for 10 days, but I believe that we will go back to fight afterwards because Hezbollah is not going to give up, and we are not going to give up, and somebody should win this war, and I believe that it will be us. Our people, our community is very, very strong community, but one of the most important things is the health of the community. The health of, you understand that people that are living in shelters for so many years, one day I hope that it will be over and they will have to go back to schools. We have today kids in the first grade that doesn't know how to read and write. We have guys that are going to finish their education, their
Lior, I'm so
baccalaureate.
sorry to interrupt you. You're saying such important things. There's just some background noise. Is there any way to reduce the background noise in your area that they could speak a little quieter, or is that
Mhm.
okay? Thank
So
you.
so maybe Golan,
No,
do you
no,
want to
continue. I'm
continue? And
sorry,
then,
Lior. I
yes,
didn't mean to interrupt your momentum. You can continue. Just,
I
yeah,
will
that's
try.
great. Thank you.
Okay, this is better. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so there are many kids from the grade of 6 and 7 years old that don't know how to read and write. And we have older kids that they are not kids, they are going to the army in a few months, that they don't have the chance to get their bagrut right. So I believe
The
that one of the most,
matriculation, the bagrut is the
yes,
matriculation to
yes,
move on.
yes. So I believe that one of the most important things after that is when we get a ceasefire, is to get all those children back to train. They will be able to get the education that they need. This is the first thing. The second thing is their mental health. We have kids that didn't get out of the house for the last 2 years, actually didn't get out of the house. They are afraid. They are terrified of what is going on. They are not going out, and we are coming to them, to their homes. We are sending instructors, we are sending our youth instructors to come to their home and to try to help them. And we have many, many others that we believe that after the war will be over, we will need to deal with them and to help them to get back to the society. Our community centers, we have 500 workers in our community centers. We have 12 community centers. I'm the CEO of 12 community centers. We are dealing with from labor to 120. This is our goal. This is our goal in the community centers. And we are dealing with the youth, with the old people, and we are trying to do the best. We are working now in the shelters. There is a very nice video, if not if you want to put it.
Rachel, do you want to,
Rachel,
should Rachel play
maybe.
it? Okay.
Yes, it's okay if you want to do it. We are working inside the shelters. We are coming to people to their homes, and we are doing whatever we can so people can have a few minutes of quiet and to the shelters to get out of the houses. And there is a video. I don't think that this is the one.
This is the
The
one
other
we
one.
have.
This is the one that you
You
have.
can hear
Okay,
the
yes,
siren
okay.
in the background. I think it's a good one to
Yes, yes,
show. Yeah.
yes, okay.
חזק, שיט! חזק, גו! רוקו! סיקי! אצ'י! לא לפגוע! קום! ויד! ולשבת! יושב הכי יפה.
Okay. All of our activities for the last 2.5 years are inside of shelters. People are getting out of their house. You can imagine a mother with two little children getting inside their car. And now they have 15 to 13 seconds that they hear the silence. They have to get out of the car and to lie over their kids with with their face down to the ground. And there is a siren, and they only can pray that everything is going to be okay. And then after that, they're getting inside the car and they are coming to our home shelters. And then we are getting them and doing whatever we can so they will be able to do sports activities or whatever. So they will be able to get out of their houses. This is the daily care. This is the daily things that we are doing every day. If I will take it a few words to the end, there's two things that for me, it's important that you will understand. First of all, we will be okay. This is first of all. We are a very, very, very strong community. The second thing is that we understand that after this war will be over, and we hope that we'll have enough time, 1 year, 2 years, before the next round, because we understand that there's going to be a next round with Iran or with Lebanon. There is going to be a next round, and with Gaza, we didn't close the issue, and we understand that there will be a next again. So the most important thing is to take those kids and get them back to schools and give them as much as hours that we can so they can learn again, so they can get back, first of all, their education material and their health, the mental health. We are using psychologists, we are using whatever we can. So those kids, after all of those hard years, they will be okay.
Thank you, Lior. That's a really important, like, needs and priorities. And also thank you for giving us a sense of that mother who has 13 seconds with all the groceries to get with her kids to the shelter. And the fact I hadn't heard that before, that that young children in elementary school can't read and write because their education have been so impaired. That's such a high priority. Golan, can you also speak just for a few minutes about the human toll? Just if you could even share some specific stories of people that you work with and how this situation has affected them.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. First of all, I will introduce myself. As you know, my name is Golan Rosenberg. I live in Kibbutz Yichiyam, which is a small community in the region council of Mate Asher. We have 32 communities, kibbutzim, moshavim, and 2 villages. In the region, 8 of our community has been evacuated in the October 7, and the other one was staying in the region. As you said, Charlene, or I think maybe Anat said that some of them was staying because they didn't have the opportunity to go outside, but still they have those 2.5, 3 years, the effect of being through a fire zone, all those years that we are saying. I live in Kibbutz Yicham, which is 4 miles from the border of Lebanon. I'm 56. I have 3 beautiful kids. Moran, which is 26, and I have twins in the age of 23. The both of them has been served in the army, and my daughter's still in the army, and the boy 4 months ago has been finished his duty service in the army. As Leo, and we are very similar. At that time, I served in the army for 25 years, and I was retired as a lieutenant colonel in 2013. I am the director, the CEO of the community center in the region council for the last 9 years. I will try to give you a perspective of a daily, of a day of a people, in a perspective of my day as a manager. Usually, I'm getting very early in the morning, as an habit of my service in the army, around 5:30, 6 p.m. a.m. in the morning, getting some emails, sitting in the table, and trying to organize my day. And that's after most of the days, twice or 3 times a night, that we have to go to the shelter or to the safety room that we have in our house. So the night is not a night, the sleep is not a sleep. And I'm saying that in the perspective of my as a community, as a manager of the community center. But you can imagine if there is a family with small children that have to go through the night to the bomb shelters or to the safety room, which is a night that it's not a night and a day that it's not a day. I'm going to take a shower in the morning. Already, I am hearing sirens around me. I don't know if it's in my kibbutz or in the other communities around me. Getting very quickly and getting to the car to go to my office. My office is about 25, 30 minutes of driving. Through the driving, I have a siren. I have to go and stop my car, go outside from the car, go and line in the ground for about a few minutes until I can get up, and I can see myself that I am with a mad all around me. So I have to get my car, go back to home, take a shower, changing clothes, and go back to the office. So I'm getting to my office in around one and a half hour late, and trying to do my schedule and trying to get my staff and to beginning my day. I won't say that it's a normal day, but I think that it's a typical day that we are driving and going from one place to another, and we have to stop our cars and to be praying that everything is going to be right. So this is how some of our days are just beginning when we are getting to our office and our things to do with our staff. During the day, mostly, and I think it's similar as Lior said, we have during the war, each morning and each night, we have a meeting with all the staff and all the departments of the region council or in the city of Nahariya, and we are trying and we are understanding what is it's allowed to do or not allowed to do, and how to continuing with our activities, and what is the rule that we can do. I can tell you for the last 4 weeks about the education, but as you said, I think that's the main thing that we are dealing with the education. We try to do as long as we can to open our not schools, but and places that people will be able to come to study and to do some things. So we organize everything during the day and ready to open it in the next morning. Around 8, 9, 10 p.m., we are getting a call from our mayor, said, sorry, nothing can be open. We have to change our whole schedule and all things for the residents, for the kids, for the other day. So at 9, 10 p.m., we are getting some meetings through the Zoom with our staff and trying to schedule our time for the next day of what to do and what to do with the kids, whatever, if they are in the elementary school, the high school, or kindergartens, how to do, what to do with the main things of the safety during the war and the rockets and drones and everything that goes around us. So that's how we are dealing and trying to be, I would say, effective leaders, proactivity to the situation and to the thing that we have to do with our communities, which is a large of problems and things and issues that any kind of family can dealing with and asking for. Although I can say that, and I'm saying that in every meeting and in every appointment that we have. I don't think, I know, it's not that I'm thinking, I know that every people in the north, I can say it from the region council, he is affected from the war and he is a PTSD of, איך אומרים, getting a PTSD of something that it's still sleeping on him. And the only thing, it's not that if he has PTSD, it's the only thing, and the question we have to ask ourselves, it's when it's going to pump up and will affect him during his life. And I can tell you that I'm running between the shelters of the community center and the communities. I can see the fear, and this is something that you cannot not seeing. The eyes of the children, the eyes of the parents. You can see the fear. You can see the movement. You can see of what they are dealing with, and And for the end, I can tell you that I think that we don't know yet of what we're going to deal in the day after the war. I think that now a lot of people are talking about what they need to do during the war, and if it's going to be ceasefire this evening, that will be fine. Maybe it's going to getting along for 10 days, 2 weeks, maybe not. I don't know. But the main thing that I am all the time asking myself, it's what going to be in the day after. Because during the war, everyone wants to take share and everyone is very solidary with everything. The day after will be the main challenges that we will have to deal with mentally, emotionally, health, everything. During kids, soldiers, families, seniors, everyone, everyone. And I think as long as we will be able to think what will be the needs and what we can do with any activity that we are doing, with taking care of something to give them to take care of themselves, I think that will be the main thing that we're going to be maybe will help them to deal with all the trauma that they are now living with. And
Thank
for
you. Oh,
and for
you.
for the last sentence, as Leo said, I think that we are a strong community. We are a strong people. I'm sure that we're gonna pass it, but I'm sure that we will have to be very, very, very specific. Is how to do and when to do, and to give a large of opportunity to give them the sense of doing something for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Golan. Your words are so poignant, and I was thinking, and it very much reflects what you said, that when you said everybody is in a PTSD, I'm not sure that's quite right. I don't think the P is there at all. I don't think anybody is post anything. They're in the trauma
You're
at the
right.
moment, and that's what you said, like that there's still a lot of processing and healing ahead. So thank you. That really reminds us and roots us. Um, I want to close maybe with turning to just very, very briefly, because we're going to wrap in a few minutes. Starting with Anat Danis, there's a specific question that came up, and then I want to ask for your advice. And then maybe ask Anat as well, Anat Vile, the other Anat, for her advice. But first, the question, Anat, there was a question in the chat about the devaluation of the dollar, or more the strength of the shekel. We know that it just reached a 3-to-1 to the dollar, which is a big barrier, and how that's affected redevelopment. You may not know, like redevelopment efforts, investment of capital where you were counting on dollars and that are now worth less. I'm not sure if you know that yet. And then I want to just ask, we have people on this webinar that are mostly thousands of miles away here in San Diego, very, very caring, though, about the region, about Israel. Just as humans and as people that want to help, philanthropists, what would be your advice to them and to us? And do all that in 3 minutes or less, and you'll win a big award.
I speak fast, so it's it's okay.
Okay.
I'll just say about the dollars that, of course, I mean, I think it really affects the organizations who receive, funding from, from foundations and federations, and then they need to work with a very low, the very low dollar. And I know it because, I was also involved with the matching grant with the Rothschild Foundation and Federation of LA. And we saw that we got budgets from our organization. And then 6 months later, they said, oh, listen, it's not like, I mean, we planned it when we thought the dollar was like 3.7. Now it's like 3.2. So I can't tell you like, across, the country how it's affecting, but I'm sure it affects I'm talking from a philanthropic point of view, it affects the organizations because, the money they're getting is, less than, they planned. So that's, about the dollar. I would say that I always say, when it comes to, rehabilitation of, of the North, I always say it's not the role and responsibility of the philanthropic community. This is the role and responsibility of the government, and we need to remember that. And also in terms of scope, and scale, it's a different scale. We're talking about billions of dollars that are required for the rehabilitation of the North. And of course, we're not here to replace the government. But the main advantage of the philanthropic community and the added value is the flexibility, is the pace, and the lack of bureaucracy. And this is something that is super, super critical because when you talk to the residents of the North and you hear about all these millions, millions and billions of shekels, many times they don't see them. It takes a long time for them to see them. And this is the added value of philanthropy, to be here and now. And I'm saying it, specifically today, is because I think now, and Golan, also mentioned that we're in critical times now because we said we went back, we were regressing, and it's critical time to make sure we're going to continue with the rehabilitation efforts, and to make sure that people are not going to leave, and also the people who left already are maybe going to come back. So this is something that we need to keep in mind.
Thank you. I really want to amplify what you said, that especially when you talk about rehabilitation and building buildings and rebuilding infrastructure, that is the responsibility of the government. But when we're talking about immediate programs for today, for tomorrow, for next week, for next year, when we're talking about jump-starting education, that is where philanthropy can be of real help, mental health and trauma. And the Jewish Community Foundation can help in terms of identifying those lever sorts of opportunities, those lever programs where philanthropists and donors affiliated with us can really invest, relatively modest dollars that would hopefully leverage longer term real returns. But because of the timing, like you said, is going to really, we hope, return many times over.
And
I
sometimes
think
big amounts make a big difference. Not big amounts, make a big difference.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think what we've heard today, education, mental health, trauma resilience, programs for the very elderly and like those that might be physically handicapped to reduce loneliness, programs for children. The literacy rate that Lior talked about is very much resonant for me. Certainly, the programs of the community centers are critical. They're mostly done in shelters now, among other organizations. So thanks to each of you. Thank you to those on the webinar. We're going to be sending out information about the various organizations and a few other videos with the follow-up. And please don't hesitate to contact us at Jewish Community Foundation with any questions. And a big thank you to the Anat Danis, and Anat Weil, and Golan and Lior for taking your time on your Thursday night. And we hope at least you'll have a better night in the 10 days to come. We know it's not everything, but at least maybe you'll get some more sleep. That can be a lot sometimes. So Laila Tov to you and sleep well. Thank you all for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Laila
you.
Tov.